All right. We are live.
It's
We'll give folks
suspenseful.
a second. It is suspenseful. It feels like it should be a trailer for a movie or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah,
last night, Brett, Texas Tech really crapped the bed on that.
they really did. They should. There's no reason they should have lost that game.
No.
No reason that they should have lost. It was like I think on ESPN 96% chance with 3 minutes to go that they were going to win.
Yeah, I know.
Um, that's yeah. They did the same. They did that to Arkansas. Arkansas did the same thing when they played Texas Tech. So it's
Yeah, well, that's okay. We're here. We're here for weather update this morning. They did choke. Yeah, whoever, Jason over there on X. Hey, make sure, guys, that we get tag a friend, share it with a friend, hit the like, the love button, the subscribe button, whatever it is that you do. Get some folks joining in here this morning. So we can get up and running with our update. So we've got severe weather in the mix, Brett. What are we looking at?
yeah. So I wanted to start out here with the satellite imagery because I think that this is probably a key thing to watch as we go throughout the day. There's a lot of pesky rain showers around the Ohio Valley this morning. Now there's a little bit of clearing right now out in Illinois, but not a lot. And so I think that this could potentially be something that would limit the higher ceiling of severe weather today.
Hmm.
Would at the very least maybe lower the higher end threat if we don't see more clearing materialize as we go throughout the day today. If we do see sun, if we do see more clearing, I think that the setup is there to produce a fairly significant wind threat and probably tornadoes as well, as we talked about yesterday. And so this is something that we'll be keeping a very, very close eye on as we go throughout the day today. I'll show you all the current radar as well right now. This is our Clarity platform. You can see what I'm talking about. These pesky showers, even a couple of storms down here across southern Indiana, just not a whole lot of dry pockets to support a ton of clearing and sunshine. And so, I think that this is certainly perhaps the reason the Storm Prediction Center hasn't gone towards a moderate yet, but it's a fine line because I think that if we get any clearing, then it's game on and we could be dealing with a higher and severe weather threat this afternoon and this evening.
Yeah, put that radar into motion, will you, Brett? Yeah,
Yes.
where you guys can see kind of where this stuff is coming from, and um, what kind of what we're dealing with. These sprinkles and this pesky rain. There's a solid cloud deck for the most part, and that what's interesting to me is I'm looking there in central Illinois, and I'm
Hmm.
seeing how easy storms can fire up,
Yeah.
which tells me there's no cap, there's no lid on the atmosphere today. And just kind of talking this out, Brett, I don't know, man. I think that the 12ZH is probably onto something if I had to guess. So with the messiness later. So we'll watch this. The big thing is more clouds, less chance of crazy weather, less clouds, more sun. It could get wild later. That's just always something that we have to battle with the day of severe weather events. It's always something we got to look at. So,
And,
uh,
and to go on that real quick, to kind of continue to highlight the fine line, if you all think back, I'm not comparing this event to the March 31st outbreak a couple of years ago, but that day there were a lot of clouds and rain in the
that's
morning
true.
and even midday. But
That's
it
true.
cleared out for about an hour or two before those storms arrived, which was enough. And so this time of the year, if we can get an hour or two of sun, that can make all the difference, which is why,
Mhm.
it's a probably a higher ceiling type of event, but there's more risk on the lower end side of this event as well.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. Well, Brett, let's get into to some timing. And guys, we see all of your comments. There's hundreds and hundreds that pour in. We'll try to kind of acknowledge and address them as we go. What we're going to do now is time out the event today and see what we're looking at.
Yeah, so this is at about 2 p.m. So starting to get some stronger storms to fire off here in parts of Missouri and Illinois. But again, what we're seeing out ahead of this is the messiness with showers and scattered storms, not really a huge amount of dry time as we get into the early part of the afternoon. And I think another potential problem with this, Michael, is the main area of storms has sped up a little bit. And so we don't have as much of a gap between kind of the early afternoon and the main event
Hmm.
with some of
Yep.
the scattered activity. Now, maybe there's a little bit of one. You can certainly still see these storms fire off. This is by about 4 p.m. So I'll draw here on the map so you all can see. This is 4 p.m. Eastern time, guys. You can start to see this line really start to get organized. Now, a couple of things that I noticed right off the bat, kind of starting to see a little bit of this bowing, this organization kind of through this area in here. And I also see some discrete cells down here in parts of Missouri. This is where I'm maybe increasingly concerned about some of the tornado threat. I would say this area too, down in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, could be where they get a little bit more sunshine. And so, I think your tornado threat certainly highest a little bit further south to the west. But as we put this into motion, this is by 5, this is by 6. You can still see a rather pronounced line of some storms here working through central Indiana. Again, you can kind of see with this some of the Boeing signals, which can certainly be a higher wind threat through this area. Now, you can still get spin ups, you can still get tornadoes with this, but it certainly is more of a line, what we call QLCS. And I think that wind probably the biggest threat, but still a tornado and a large hail threat as well with this. But wind probably the number one threat as this is moving through Indiana. And again, this is right at about 6 p.m. Michael, anything to add on that as these move through central Indiana?
I think one thing to keep in mind is as they do move through, despite sun or no sun, the upper level winds start to ramp
Mhm,
up as the threat moves overhead. And so what that essentially means is that any of these thunderstorms that can tap into these winds just a few thousand feet up into the atmosphere are going to be able to draw those winds down to the surface. And that's why I think there's particularly potentially an enhanced risk here for damaging winds. That's a 75 mile per hour wind that could mix down to the surface right there. So that's kind of the reasoning is that I think as the storms hit the Illinois-Indiana state line tonight, and you're watching this on radar,
mhm.
they could experience a little bit of a strengthening as they're overhead because of the low level jet, which is very similar to the last event Brett and I
Mhm.
covered last week.
For sure. And another thing that I've noticed in the mid to especially the upper levels of the atmosphere, what you're seeing here, a decent amount of dry air with these storms, which
Mhm.
is actually good or bad, if you will, in terms of amplifying. It will amplify the wind and the hail threat. When you mix in drier air, it causes evaporation, which makes the air more dense, which creates momentum and it amplifies the winds towards the surface. And so I think that again, as the jet amplifies, as it pulls in some drier air, certainly can amplify the wind threat as it moves through central Indiana as we go through this evening.
Brett, you don't know one thing I love about our lives?
What do you love about our lives?
A lot of people do live streaming, but I have yet to hear anyone explain it like we do. They show the fancy rate, the colors and the extreme outcomes, and it's like it's going to get bad later. Tune in for the live,
Mhm,
but we're actually explaining the process, what it takes, what it has to happen, showing you the maps. Like it's actually level-headed expert analysis, and even on some of these guys that are streaming to millions of people, you don't get that. You just get
mhm.
pandemonium and pure chaos. And, it's like, tornadoes, live stream it, get on the storm, and it's like, that's why I love our live streams in particular. Yeah, we don't get millions of views. Well, sometimes we do, but I just love that we explain all of this the way that we do. So that's fun to me. That's fun.
Yeah, it's so important. These systems are fickle, I would say, is
Mhm.
probably a good way to put it, especially on a day like this where there's this rain and clouds out ahead of the storms. And so it's so important to explain when there's a fine line and things that we're watching so that you all understand as the forecast evolves why it's doing that. It doesn't just magically change.
Yeah.
There are things in place that we need to keep an eye on and explain, so you all have an understanding of why weather is happening, why it's doing what it's doing.
Brett, if I can,
Sure.
I would like to show the potential outcome of what might happen if this setup becomes a little bit messier.
Sure.
And I was going to use the 12ZH triple R for that
Sure.
because it is kind of doing that. I'm going to share my screen real quick just so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Window. We'll go to the 12ZH triple R. It's coming in, and here's what I'm mainly referring to is this is where we kind of are right now, and it's doing decent with
Hmm.
things. You know, it's not doing bad with the initialization of things. It tries to clear it out for a while, and
Yeah.
it starts to develop a mess of thunderstorms here on the state line by about 3 o'clock. And then you can see what happens is by about 4 o'clock, there's widespread thunderstorms. I don't think at that time, Brett, correct me if I'm wrong, the low level jet is not going at this time though.
No, it doesn't really ramp up till closer to 6.
Yeah. So here's 5 p.m. and then there's 6 p.m. as it would come through. The actually the second wave arguably would have a better risk at producing the severe storms. But you can just see there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of convection here. There's even almost tries to do a third wave down to the south there, but you can kind of see the messy nature of it. That's the latest run, and I think the latest run is probably picking up a little bit more on some cloud cover. And I'll show you the run from 2 runs ago and how it was a little bit different. It was a little bit more organized
Mm-hmm.
and not as messy. It was kind of linear, and you could see. Now, I'm not saying this run is incorrect. You know, there's no way for me to go, oh, this is the one. It's not possible, but you can just see the difference there a little bit. And then you can look at the wind gust swath, and it's interesting where it's putting these
Mm-hmm.
strongest winds too, and that's closer to the low. But there's embedded wind gusts in here of 80 miles an hour.
Yeah. Which there's
So
support for that from that low level jet once it ramps up. There is support as that low level jet ramps up, as the system kind of intensifies as it pulls east. Whoa, I just got really big. Um,
sorry.
this system intensifies as it pulls east, there's the potential for 80 locally higher wind gusts, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts, or even higher as the jet amplifies as it pushes east. And I'll show a kind of a higher end threat map of kind of the if we end up with the higher ceiling of this event, what that will look like here in a moment. But a lot of people asking about timing. So I'm going to finish the simulated radar and then we'll look at kind of the threat map. So again, guys, this is 6 p.m. 6 p.m. You're looking at, by the way, down here. Here's some of those supercells where the tornado threat probably is even a little bit higher, from southern Illinois, southwest Indiana, and down towards northern Arkansas. But 6 p.m. Indy, Bloomington, Muncie, you're getting strong to severe storms moving through. This is by 7 p.m., guys. We're starting to get this to progress a little bit further to the east. 7 p.m. right here. 8 p.m., we're moving these storms to the Indiana-Ohio border, probably still severe at this time, starting to work towards the southern row of counties in Indiana. If we pan a little bit further south into the west, you can still see some of these stronger storms where I am still concerned about the tornado threat in this area. Now, the tornado threat's still not zero around central Indiana, but I still think this is probably the biggest risk area. Paducah seems to be the hot spot lately, and I don't really disagree in this particular case either. And then as we go towards 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock, you're pushing these pretty far east at this point. So timing is sped up a little bit from what we talked about yesterday, maybe by an hour or two. And these should be exiting further off to the east into eastern Kentucky, eastern Ohio by the time we work towards about midnight. So that's some general timing on this particular line. If we go back, approaching the Indiana-Illinois border, this is 3 p.m. So for Indiana, your threat kind of starts 3 to 4 p.m. to the west. And then as we work further east, central Indiana, you're kind of 5 to 6 p.m. right here. And then as we go further east for the eastern Indiana area, western Ohio, you're looking at anywhere from 6, 7, 8 p.m. So,
Brett, one thing, just as you were talking, I wanted to check. Oh, look at this. That's fun. She says, I just got
yeah.
my first push notification from Clarity. Yep, that's great. And that's what you get with Clarity. You can scan the QR code there, or go to bamwx.com and sign up for a free trial. But I was just looking at a couple things here. I was looking at the current dew point temperature
Mm-hmm.
and the Cape already kind of building. I don't know if you can see this, Brett, but what's interesting to me is the Cape is building quite a bit earlier this morning, and that 60-degree dew point line is already over the area here. Here's that
Mm-hmm.
60-degree dew there. So that is interesting to me in the sense of the last event that we had. I don't know if you can remember that. We were struggling to get the dew points to come in early,
Mm-hmm.
and the Cape built pretty late. It was a late thing, but in this particular instance, let me see if I can get. I was going to try to make it so you guys could see this a little bit better. These lines for the Cape here. Let me turn the mapping these counties off. This is the energy already building into Illinois out here, and so having the moisture already get to that 60 to 62 degree dew point this early is interesting to me, Brett. That would tell me that we're not having an issue building in instability despite the cloud cover.
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, the atmosphere's already got more moisture in it than it had with this past system.
Yeah.
Now the wind energy is not quite as strong with this system,
Mhm.
but I think that we're going to have a little bit more instability with this particular system, and so any sunshine, and there are a couple of breaks out there in southwestern Missouri and northern Arkansas. If we could kind of pull some of that in,
Mhm.
it'll be game on for sure.
Yeah, it's trying to here. That's probably the nose of the jet down there trying to clear some things out. It's definitely trying. I mean, um, I just thought that was interesting that the dew points were already kind of that far north this early in the day. Curious, Brett, there on our modeling platform, what does it show for dew points right now?
Sure. Let's see
Yeah.
here. What time is it? 9:30.
Yeah.
So by 10, it's got dew points. The 10 ZH had 62 for Indy,
Share
65.
your share your screen, will you?
Oh,
We just
sorry.
see you. We
Ah,
love you, but
yeah. No, nobody
yeah,
wants to
that's
see
not
me.
true. No, they
Um,
do. They want to see you.
so this is the 10Z at about 10 a.m.
Uh huh.
So the blue is 60 plus degree dew points. Click around
Yep.
anywhere. You can see 62. What are we in Indy right now? What is the dew point in Indy right now? Do you know,
I will
Michael?
tell you. I will tell you. I will tell you. The current dew point temperature in Indianapolis right now is 60 on the dot.
Okay.
So,
So I mean this was 9 a.m. on the 12ZH It's pretty close, I would say.
mhm.
If I go to 10Z, maybe it was a little too aggressive, although I would argue that to the north it might have even been a little bit underdone.
Dew point at my house on my weather station is 63 right now.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I
Which
mean,
is pretty in line with the 10ZH here, I would say.
let's
This
let's let's talk. I see a lot of questions, Brett, about rainfall.
okay.
And so what I was going to do is I'll show the 24-hour rainfall forecast from Clarity real quick. And then, so any of you that have clarity can utilize or look at this particular map over here. And this is the rainfall just over the next day. This is just the next 24 hours. I can click on the map and intrude and get some information out of that. You can see where the heaviest rain is going to be down here across Tennessee and northern Alabama. Another big storm system, a couple of other big ones are going to come through. And this 7-day rainfall forecast is pretty wild. This would probably suggest some prolific flooding concerns
Mhm.
across southern Indiana, western Kentucky, northwest Tennessee into Arkansas. That's a 10.7 inch rain forecast in a 7-day period. Um, that's remarkable. Honestly,
Yeah,
that is not something to be honest with you, it's not something I don't know that I've seen in a long time,
in
Brett.
a
I don't know if
long
I've seen
time.
anything like
It
that.
it it I remember, I think it may have been March of 2011, but I remember a very similar setup to this in terms of just prolific rain and flooding and, concerned about for our agriculture friends, plant delays or replants if you've already planted because of flooding concerns. You can see there, what is that? 2-inch plus probabilities in a 48-hour period. That's a very very high probability for 5 days out.
Yeah, if you're inside this dark line here, it's a 75% or greater probability. Right there in Owensboro, that's 90% probability, but you can see the oranges there indicating where the highest probability is for this type of rain to occur. Change the background of the map and go to 5 inches in 48 hours because that's the one that
Mm.
blew me away. So there's the 5 inches, excuse me, 5 inch plus probability of rain in 2 days. Southern Indiana, 8%, 20% down on the state line, 30%. But look at Western Kentucky and Northwestern Tennessee, 56%. I mean, that is crazy,
Mhm.
that kind of rain. So I just wanted to show that. A lot of you are asking about rain, and there's certainly no shortage of it. And there's probably going to be some pretty serious flooding concerns over the coming weeks here with this type of rain.
Yeah, for sure. And two severe weather threats to bookend that rain too today, and then Wednesday, which we will talk a little bit about to end the video. But Wednesday's threat, if you were with us last night, I'm very concerned about Wednesday.
Mhm.
I think the setup on Wednesday holds the potential to be a notable severe weather outbreak
Yes.
for a widespread area. And we'll get to that here in a second. I do want to show kind of our custom maps that we made this morning. I want to emphasize, this would be if we get some clearing and we get the higher end threat. So if we don't get any clearing, if that latest run of the HRRR is a little bit more correct, this 5 out of 5 wind level threat would go away.
Mhm.
But if we do, as that jet amplifies in this pink area, there's the risk for 80 plus mile per hour wind gusts, which does not happen very often around here.
No. No,
Um,
that would be wild, nonetheless. Yeah.
regardless, even if you take that 5 out, we end up with the lower end of things. There's still the potential for this line to produce 70 mile per hour wind gusts as it
Yeah,
moves
I
through.
mean, even 60, Brett, still is gonna cause problems. I mean,
For sure.
it's, so real quick, guys, a lot of you watching, Brett, I'd like to share just real quick,
Yeah.
bamwx.com, go check it out, bamwx.com. On the top right-hand corner, get instant access. You can start a free trial to our platform right now, no credit card required. Get the alerts sent directly to your phone. Expert forecasts from literally people that will send you, forecasts. I mean, let me show you just real quick. This is my location in Clarity, and I have actual forecast information from human meteorologists that have been sent to my device. And here it is. I mean, you can see this. They send the timing, they send the threats, and all these things. So it's a great tool. Would love for you all to go and check it out. You just click start free trial right there. Put your info in, and trial out Clarity. I will say, it is a platform built for businesses, people making decisions on whether that impacts their day to day decisions, whether it's money, operations, you name it. It's a professional level service. It's not just some other run of the mill weather app you find in the app store. We don't roll that way. So, bamwx.com. Brett, talk about what I've got up here on the screen.
Yeah, so this is a look at the threat for Wednesday. And that the hatched area is already indicating a significant severe weather potential. All modes concerned about supercells. And what stands out to me is how widespread it is from Michigan all the way down to Louisiana in terms of the significant weather threat. And what is the purple, Michael? Is that 45% in terms of severe weather already?
Yeah, 45, and no, actually that's 60.
60.
The darkest purple is a 1. It's 100. So
So
West,
basically guaranteeing severe weather at this distance,
yes, yeah,
which doesn't happen ever really.
right.
Um,
No, uh-uh.
you
So
know,
let me zoom it out so you can they can see that scale real quick
yeah,
here.
I
There
can.
you go.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, 45 to 60%, 60 to 100% in that dark purple.
Yep.
That's a very very high end severe weather threat for Wednesday. April 2nd, afternoon and the evening hours. We'll have more details on timing coming up when I kind of get past this system today and then get into that one a little bit more detail. But I'm more concerned about supercells and stronger tornadoes with that system as we work into Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening.
Interesting comment here I wanted to address just real quick. Manual Carry WX says, weather's for everyone. I get the business model, but the normies want a good product too. You are exactly right. And guess what? That is why we are here for free right now. Isn't that awesome? We are here right now for free on our Sunday morning, giving you all the information. So we know that, we acknowledge that, we appreciate you tuning in. But we also have a very large demand on the business and decision making side of things as well. So that's why we talk about it. We absolutely are a business. We're a professional business, and but we love to do this for free. If you followed and watched us long enough, when it gets nasty, we come on here.
Yep.
And we talk about it. So one thing I think that's interesting, Brett, in the wording, if you could maybe turn on the upper level winds for Wednesday and talk about what we were seeing yesterday with the placement of the upper level jet, because what I found very interesting in the modeling for Wednesday is the suggestion of the upper level winds would really point towards more of a historical signal of a severe of a widespread tornado outbreak. You know, yesterday I mentioned that I didn't think we were dealing with numerous tornadoes and a ton of just tornadoes, for lack of a better word here. This one Wednesday, I do have the concern, if things continue, that it would actually be a widespread outbreak of strong tornadoes. And what Brett has here is this is the European model, and this is valid Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah. So where you see that streak there over northern Missouri, western Illinois, that is the right rear entry region of the upper level jet stream, and that those winds approaching 100 knots. You have the best lift on the bottom right and the top left of that jet. So Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and then all the way up north there, where you see the divergence in the top left exit region, that's the other area of upward motion and lift. Typically, these setups are in the deep south. Typically, that low and that jet is down south. That's just where it goes.
Mhm.
And in this particular instance, that type of setup is now positioned itself 500 miles north of the norm. And that is why I'm very concerned for a widespread outbreak of strong tornadoes. I mean, I don't really know another way to talk about it, to say it. And it's not a thing to try and get people afraid. It's legit. I mean, it's a legit threat for a widespread outbreak of severe weather and tornadoes on Wednesday. So,
Yeah, I just clicked on a sounding here. You can see this is what we call a hodograph, and we're looking for a strong curve of the winds, basically from the surface aloft, and a strong signal here for that already 90 hours out. This is in southern Indiana.
A lot of people are saying they can't hear, and I'm not sure what's going on with that. It's not on our end. If you exit
Can't
the
hear.
stream and come back in, it might fix. A lot of people can hear though at the same time, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
right now we're talking about Wednesday, guys.
yes, yeah. So again, Wednesday, my radar is up there for sure. I will be in Florida on spring break um, with my family, but I will absolutely be assisting Brett Wednesday in the event of a tornado outbreak. We'll be live, keeping you all posted. Oh my goodness, where would you click on that?
As a northern Kentucky.
Shoo.
Northern Kentucky. Yeah.
That particular sounding there is, gosh, look at the 0 to 1 kilometer speed shear on that.
Yeah.
That is,
It's also 80 degrees,
and that
which
LCL, look how low it is. That is not your typical sounding there. What we're seeing here, um, what you're seeing here is what we would call a PDS indication in the sounding, a particular dangerous situation, is what that would refer to. But that's crazy right there,
yeah,
Brett.
it is crazy.
So
Definitely very concerned about Wednesday.
yeah.
We'll have more details on that, probably more of an analysis tomorrow as we get past today's system. I do want to go back real quick, Michael. Number one, here's the wind threat. Again, the 5 is 50-50 whether we get there or not, depending on clearing later today. But if we get some clearing, there's the risk for 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts. It doesn't get much worse than that in Indiana, really, unless there's a derecho. So we went with a 5 out of 5 if that ends up happening. That's a very high end wind threat. And this would be coming through as we get into this afternoon and evening, 3 to 9 p.m. generally across the area. And so, again, this is your wind threat map right here. And guys, as we have in the top right corner, when we get these big wind damage events, power lines down, we can get all kinds of fence damage and trees down and you name it. And just keep in mind as we clean up tomorrow, be sure that you're calling that 811 number to mark utilities to make sure that they can come out and mark those for you before you start digging and trying to fix things up. So continue to kind of work with them with that 811 initiative to make sure that people are digging safely as they clean up for all of these severe weather threats that we've been dealing with this year. I know that myself, I'm one that wants to get out and pick things up and clean and do whatever we need to do right after the storm. But be sure that we are cleaning up safely if you need to dig things up.
I love this comment. I love it. It's great. I had a great time last night with some haters on the Franklin chat, Brett.
Oh boy.
There were some lovers and there were some haters, and I love how people respond to it if you even bring it up. We appreciate those of you that love us, and we love those that hate us. One thing I want to, Brett, while you have that, I want to show something I just realized or what I'm seeing on satellite. Listening to your analysis, I keep
Sure.
checking visible satellite because I'm very curious. But I am starting to see at the nose of the clearing of this higher dew point that the clouds are actually eroding here.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I was noticing that, and the dew point temperature here has actually come up a half degree since we talked about dew point. So I'm intrigued in that regard
Hmm.
by seeing that clearing there in the boot heel of Missouri. Again, the more clearing that we see for today's threat, guys, is that's a little bit more of a concern. So, yeah.
For sure. And where we are seeing that clearing right now, I'll go back to this is our tornado threat map. That's where we could have a couple of longer track tornadoes, perhaps. Again, I don't think there's 50 tornadoes in here, but there could be a couple of stronger tornadoes. That's where you see that red color, that 4 out of 5, for multiple tornadoes in there and a couple of strong ones possible. Bloomington, Evansville, Southeast Missouri, Southern Illinois, Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee, kind of the biggest threat area to keep an eye on in terms of tornadoes. But still, in that orange area from Lafayette to Indy, Dayton, Cincinnati, still certainly the threat of some tornadoes along that line. You can get those spin ups along the line. We saw it a couple of weeks ago, that can produce multiple tornadoes in there. But I do think the stronger tornado threat would be in that red area you see in Southwest Indiana and points to the southwest.
I can't acknowledge that comment, but I'm laughing at it and hope that you know what I'm laughing at. I'm just going to go from there.
Somebody said, I'm learning when Brett says that's interesting. Probably not good news.
Yeah. Anyways, so there's your hail threat map.
Yep.
Again, there is, if some of these storms can become rooted to the surface, and if the clearing can pan out, there will be some hailers tonight, especially to the west and to the southwest. The upper levels of the atmosphere are cold, and so certainly possible to see some decent hail. You can see the best threat there across south central Illinois, western Kentucky, southeastern Missouri, for the hail threat. One last quick mention again, guys, is I want to show you. There's a lot of you watching. It's just taking advantage of the Clarity trial right now. It's free. BAMWX.com. Click the top right hand corner. Get instant access. Start the free trial, and fill it out. We'd love to have you all try our platform out and utilize it for the storms. Not only today, but Wednesday. Gosh, why not? Why not have everybody try it and share it with a friend and say, hey, even if you're not in a role to make decisions or you have a business, I mean, share it with someone that does through the trial. So
yeah, for sure.
One last thing I should,
yeah, go ahead.
I should bring up, Brett, I guess, is I got my hat on here and we have the 5K coming up. And you just threw it up. Look at you.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah. A lot of people watching on May 17th. We have the Storm Cancer 5K in Franklin. And that is a foundation called the Cure Starts Now. It is a foundation where all proceeds, all the money goes to childhood brain cancer research. Last year we had 250 runners. We were able to raise over $40,000 to give back to this foundation, to the community. We want to get 500 runners out there. We need sponsors too for the event. Come out and run. It's $30 to run, I think. If you want to sponsor your business, your organization, it's as little as $250, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But come and we will all be out there. I'll be running this year. Last year I ran in a costume. I don't know if I'm gonna have a costume on or not this year.
I think you said you weren't going to do that. But if you're changing your mind, I can find something. I can find something that maybe doesn't involve a wig. That will.
I'll tell you what, Brett. I'll make you a deal right now. I'll make you a deal. I will wear a Superman costume.
Ooh.
If we get 500 runners.
There you go.
500 people have to register to run the race, and I will race and run in a Superman costume. But not for one less, Brett. $4.99, I'm out. 500 runners, I'll do it.
Yeah, you all heard him. So scan the QR code. On our Facebook page, if you go to our page on Facebook, we actually have the event pinned, I believe, on our Facebook page. So you can go there and learn more about it. And then also I threw the link in here if you scroll up a little bit earlier so you can sign up. There's also a button on the homepage of our website at bamwx.com where you can click the trial, obviously. You can click the 5K. Go to their website and you can sign up. You don't have to run either. If you're not a runner, you can walk 1 mile. There'll be a bunch of people doing that. It's great for kids. There's all kinds of activities and whatnot. So let's get Michael in a Superman costume since he decided to do that to himself. There's 4,000 of you watching. We can get 500 people.
Come on. I know. That's what I'm saying. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you all for tuning in today. Share this with a friend, tag it with a friend, tag a friend. And Brett, I'm guessing we'll come back on when storms start to fire up, I guess. How's that sound?
Yep. So that'll probably be 3, 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah. Look
So
for, as those
we'll be,
storms get going, if I'm supposed to fly out at 6 o'clock today, guys, to go on spring break. So if my flight for some reason is still going, I don't think it will be. I'll be on. If it's not going, I will be, but if it is, I won't be. Brett will be here regardless with who's helping you today. If it's
yeah.
not,
So if you are not around, John is going to be joining me on the live stream. John's going to actually be kind of giving you all a look at what he's seeing and what he's doing as he's sending out updates on Clarity, which will be super cool. That
Kemper?
John Kemper. Yep.
John Kemper he's single, by the way, for the ladies. He's single and ready to mingle. I'm just saying.
He's texting me right now. So
oh gosh. Okay. Anyways, well, thanks guys. Thanks, Brett. We'll
Yep.
see you this afternoon.
Yep. We'll talk soon. Stay safe, guys.